Should Tennessee take a look at a guy named Nico Iamaleava against UTSA in meaningful snaps? I'm not talking about when the game's out of hand in the third or fourth quarter. I'm talking about playing a series or two in the first quarter or second quarter. Already, Tom says, yeah, but there are pitfalls that I want to discuss that come with this. So, Caleb, let me ask you first. You've read my column that just went up on offthehooksports.com. What say you about giving Nico some real time against UTSA?
I don't think it's a good idea. I disagree with you, funny enough. And I'll tell you why. A
lot of people disagree with me, so that's not unusual.
For meaningful snaps, I played Gaston more before Nico Iamaleava this year. And I say that because you're still thinking, and we're going to talk a little bit later in the show about what Tennessee needs to do to maintain the momentum of the year of Josh Heupel this year, given how expectations have reset. But we're still talking about a quarterback who Tennessee has suspect O-line play. Nico Iamaleava is very, very brittle right now, given his size. I still maintain if you put him in for meaningful snaps, you're risking an injury that wrecks him for 2024, that will nag him for the rest of his college and even into his pro career. He's just not big enough. He's 6'6", 210. Now, some people say he's close to Hendon Hooker size. He is in weight, but if you guys remember, Hendon Hooker was still like 217, and he was only like 6'3". So
yeah, and Hannah wasn't nearly as tall. Nico's a solid 6'6". Robert says need to reset our mojo. Let's talk about the pitfalls, because there are significant pitfalls that I thought about, and it's brought to you by Zen Sports. Zen Sports, the new sports book in Tennessee, revolutionizing the way you earn sports betting rewards. That means no more deposit bonuses that turn into deposit nightmares. On Zen Sports, what you see is what you get, and with their cash rewards program, you get a lot of cash. For a welcome bonus, earn an unlimited 5% cash back on your betting volume for your first 15 days when you sign up with the promo code HOOKED. That's right, unlimited 5% cash back. Keep betting and keep earning with up to 3% cash back on your betting volume every month after that, and refer friends to earn a percentage of their betting volume as cash rewards too. Zen Sports is bringing the cash back to Tennessee. So if you bet big on sports, you want to be betting on Zen Sports. Zen Sports betting just got better. And call 1-800-889-9789 for gambling problem. Must be 21 and over and in Tennessee to bet. All right, Gaston Moore, you can't play him. You're just wasting snaps and essentially conceding any sort of championship if you run him out there in any sort of meaningful game, especially in the first quarter. And I think Tennessee's going to beat UTSA significantly. So the question is going to be, when does Nico come into the game? It's not if. If it's a third quarter or fourth quarter, what does he really gain? Because that's not a real game time atmosphere if it's out of hand. You have to play Nico Iamaleava because Tennessee's not going to win a championship with Joe Milton. They're not going to win the East, which Florida could still lose 2 games, but they're not going to win the East by beating Georgia and Alabama. They're not going to sneak their way into a 4-team playoff. Now, if this were next year and this was a 12-team playoff, I would have a little bit more patience, but the time is now. You look at Tennessee's schedule, and maybe you would say to yourself, hey, this Tennessee team is has a perfect opportunity to get Nico ready if Joe Milton struggles before the Texas A&M game when you have a bye week. Okay, make that argument if you want to. That's too late. That's too late. If Tennessee slips up against South Carolina, which because of injuries, because of number of issues, a lack of chemistry on the offensive side, and Joey Halsley can say all day that operationally Joe Milton is great, but no one is scared of Joe Milton's deep ball. No one is scared of Tennessee running the football right now because their top 2 offensive linemen for last year are gone. Their best offensive lineman is still on the shelf. So if I'm Tennessee, I am getting some real snaps for Nico. And if this team is so strong and so mature and has such great leadership, they need to take that in stride. That being said, I have certainly seen where a quarterback decision like this can splinter a team. That, however, is a risk I would be willing to take if I'm Josh Heupel. And I would see what I got out of 2 series with Nico. And then at that point, if I thought that they had to put him in the start the second half to beat UTSA, let's say that game's still close, then I'm making that move. And I would have, unless Nico goes out there and bombs, I would have the same approach for the South Carolina game. The bottom line is there's a glass ceiling with Joe Milton. I don't know if there's a glass ceiling with Nico. And I think it's time for Tennessee to find out.
I don't think there's a glass ceiling with Nico. I can tell you straight up right now, when Nico gets to the right size, I think Tennessee could be unstoppable with him at quarterback. Again, if you make this switch, Dave, look, we all agree that you're not thinking about this year at that point. You're thinking about next year because you don't think you're going to win a championship if you switch to Nico. Let's put that out there. Am I right?
Not necessarily. No, I mean, I think that you could put Nico out there and get improved quarterback play, get Cooper Mays back, and you could potentially lose another game to Alabama and or Georgia and Alabama's not as good. We just kind of throw those Alabama up there out of habit sometimes, Caleb, but Alabama's not that great. No, I think that Nico could come in, and if he's as good as people seem to believe, that he could come in and lead Tennessee through the rest of the season with just one more loss. So I think that, no, at this point, I would take the unknown. And you said that Nico's going to be good. We really don't. I mean, he could go out there and chomp the bit. I mean, there are non-gamers. I don't think he's going to be like that. But I would go out there and I would make that move to see what I had. Now, here's the cool thing about it. With UTSA, you're Josh Heupel. You can say, is there a quarterback controversy? And you just come out and say, no, we just wanted to give him a look in a real game atmosphere. Then you grade it. You come back the next week, and maybe you don't play him at all. Maybe he's not ready. As far as the long-term injury thing, listen, I mean, there aren't a lot of long-term injuries that take you out of games physically. Are you talking about him getting psychologically damaged? Well, them's the breaks, kid. I mean, that's what you signed up for. So you better be ready to go and not have a psychological dent if it doesn't go well. But I think it's time this week to take a look at Nico. Go ahead.
What happens? Okay, say you talk about splintering the team. What happens if you put Nico in? He inevitably at some point, say he does get hurt, not for career or anything like that, but just for this year. So you have to put Joe Milton back in. Well, not only do you put Joe Milton back in, so you're back to that glass ceiling you talked about, but you've also lost the team because as you talk about splintering the team. And I mean, because I think the likelihood of Nico getting hurt is so astronomically high, guys. I would bet on a likelihood that he would get hurt over.
Well, how many times did Joe Milton get hit last week, though?
Joe Milton's a lot bigger.
Well, no, I understand, but how many times did he get hit?
He got hit a few times. I don't know exactly the number. I mean, he got hit on that interception he threw. I mean, again, they still did a lot of quick screens and draws and runs and things like that. So they tried to take away the chances for him to get hit. But I do think he got hit a couple of times at least.
Well, no, he did. But so did Casey Clausen as a freshman. So did Eric Ainge as a freshman.
Yeah, but that didn't split the team as much. And by the way, that Eric Ainge offensive line.
One did split the team, the Ainge Clausen thing.
Well, no, that was 05, not 04, though.
Right. But talking about a quarterback controversy, here's the bottom line, Caleb, is Tennessee's not going to win a championship with Joe Milton at quarterback. I don't believe that's the case. I like him a lot, but I just don't believe that's going to happen. Tennessee is going to be better, I believe, with Nico at the helm. And if he's not, then you've got the excuse versus UTSA. You wanted to see him for 2 series and how he would do. And no, there's no quarterback controversy. You know as well as I do, Josh Heupel is going to try to control the narrative. So say what you want to say after the game. even if in the back of your head, it is a quarterback controversy.
So are you suggesting that Josh Heupel do this versus UTSA and then consider starting him versus South Carolina, or just giving him meaningful snaps versus UTSA just as a test?
If he lights it up and he throws a couple of darts downfield, then yeah, I would consider that. But I would never tell anybody that. After the game, I would say we just want to see him for a couple of snaps, and Joe's the starter. Practice is closed, so if he rolls out there first during the Gamecocks, nobody's going to know about it until the day of. And as far as his team splintering, sure, that could happen, but I think a lot of this leadership from last year, and from all that I've been told, I think a lot of what they think of Nico. So at the end of the day, yes, you could splinter the team. Some people could like one player over another, but at the end of the day, these players want to win. And I think there is real concern that Joe can't get them to an elite level. Robert says Dave might be right, but it kind of goes all over the place in the message board. Some people say no, but that's where I am. And I thought a lot about it yesterday. You are not going to make a New Year's Day bowl with Joe Milton at quarterback.
Okay, but what I'm saying happens is I still think the likelihood, you brought up Ainge and Clausen. Dave, you covered that 2000 and that 2014, particularly that 2014 Ainge was on. That offensive line blocks circles around this offensive line. I mean, whatever you think of Michael Munoz, he was a reliable offensive lineman and he was an All-American that year. Aaron Sears was on that team. What year
was it that Ainge got thrown into the 2005? He got thrown into the goalpost at LSU.
That was 05. That was 05, okay. Not 04.
Yeah, they had a better offensive line, and I'm not arguing that point. But isn't this offense designed to maximize what you have talent wise?
Yeah, but you're still going to have to get hit if you don't have the offensive line. And I mean, I don't mean get hit like, again, it's not like Spurrier's offense. It's not like the quarterback has to be willing to get hit every time they throw the ball. But I will say they're under a lot more pressure this year because of the issues on the line. And I'm saying, okay, you bring in and Casey had a much better offensive line too in 2000. I wanted to get that out. But you bring in Nico gets hurt, and then you're back to Joe Milton, and you've lost the team. And
why do you think you've lost? I don't think that's a given that you've lost the team.
I think you've lost the team.
As a matter of fact, in 2005, when I think they went to Rick Clausen, I think he got the team back. It's when they went back and forth that they lost the team. That showed a lack of leadership. I'm not going back and forth.
No, that's not what happened in 2005. What happened is they were alternating at the beginning. Then they went with Ainge against LSU and they lost the team. And then they went back to Rick, and you're right, they came back and beat LSU. But I think the team had still tuned out Fulmer and the coaching staff at that point because they were annoyed that he ever went with Ainge to begin with. Because they all
there's some truth to that, but he continued to force Ainge down their throat when they got healthy. Listen, he certainly could get hurt, but that's just kind of where you are with this football program. And there's really no injury nowadays that you just don't bounce back from. It does happen, 1 in 1,000 times. You know, back in Chuck Webb's day, it used to happen where you're forever affected. It doesn't happen anymore.
He limped off the field. That's the crazy part. Chuck Webb actually walked off the field. I mean, when do you see when does a guy walk off the field and then it's a career-ending injury?
No. So your thoughts on the message board, and let me hear what you think. Would you go ahead and play Nico against UTSA? The other reason I like it, and listen, they're not going to beat up on Tennessee's quarterback, no matter if it's Joe Milton or Nico this week. I mean, they're not that good. And I believe that as long as you throw it as soon as your back foot hits the back of the pocket, which Joe Milton does not, and you get the ball out quickly, which is supposed to be Nico's strength, I actually believe you could design an offense where he doesn't get hit one single time. Now, that would hamper the offense, and you wouldn't want to do that. Don't get me wrong. But I think with this offense, you could say, hey, just get rid of the ball on your back foot. But the injury thing is that's just football. Nobody thought Cooper Mays or Keenan Pili was going to get hurt. I would not go back and forth, though, to your point. Aside from injury, I would make my decision at least by the A&M game, and it's either Joe or it's Nico the rest of the time. Smoky Mountain Red says the game is a perfect time to see what he can do. And obviously Josh Heupel has no problem misleading the media a little bit. So you come out of that and you say, we just want to see what happened. That's all we're shooting for. And you say that and people will gobble it up for the most part. I think it's time to give Nico a look. And that's come with a lot of thought. You know, I didn't believe in Nico 6 months ago. I came around. And yeah, I just don't believe that if he can't manage the offense now, which doesn't even come down to throwing the ball and getting the ball out and being accurate. We're not even at that point. But if he can't do that, then that's a real problem. Rocky Top Tom says, look, Nico can do everything Joe can't. I hate it. I don't want it to be so, but it's true. Joe Milton is Neil Diamond. Nico is Bon Scott. Ouch.